So this right here is the new GF65 Thin from MSI, and this is a thin and light gaming laptop that comes with a 6-core i7-10750H, a brand new RTX 3060, 16 gigs of RAM, a 500 gig SSD, and a 144Hz Full HD display. So it doesn't really have anything super exciting going for it, but it is supposed to be one of the more affordable gaming laptops on the market. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the exact prices just yet, but as soon as I find them out, I will update the description down below, so keep an eye on that. Anyway, let's see what this laptop can do. Let's begin. This video is brought to you by Gigabyte and their brand new Aorus Fi27QX gaming monitor. This monitor features a 240Hz refresh rate, both G-Sync support and FreeSync premium support, so it's great for gamers. And on top of that, it has great image quality and almost perfect color reproduction thanks to its excellent Quad HD IPS panel. If you're looking for an ultimate all-arounder, check this monitor out using the links in the description below. Now, right off the bat, you can notice that MSI is definitely reusing one of their older designs. It is quite thin and light, making it pretty portable and very easy to drag around with. Now, the build quality isn't that special though. The cover is brushed aluminum, but it is quite thin. It has a bit of a flex going on, and it is extremely sensitive to fingerprints, so be prepared to clean it all the time. The underside is plastic, but it feels pretty solid, and as you can see, there is plenty of ventilation. Now on the left side, we have a power connection and an HDMI port, and on the right side there are two 5GB USB Type-A ports, a 5GB USB Type-C port, and a 10GB USB Type-C port with a display port out. So that is a lot of connections, and it is quite okay for a thinner gaming laptop like this one, but I have to say I really don't like the fact that all USB ports are here on the right side, as it does get in the way of the mouse when gaming. Now you can easily open this laptop with one hand, and the hinges on each side feel pretty okay. The panel itself doesn't have too much flex when you open it, but it still has a very weak spot on the base of it. On the inside, there's the same brushed aluminum. It stays cool when you use it, which is nice, but it is still a huge fingerprint magnet. I do really like the keyboard though. MSI's keys don't have too much travel, but they have a really nice feel to them both for typing and for gaming. Now, there is a bit of flex going on if you press hard, but in normal use, it will hold up really well. Some GF65 models might have an RGB keyboard, but cheaper versions like this one will come with red backlight only. The touchpad is pretty okay for a gaming laptop, especially when it comes to, lower-end models. It has a very nice click to it as well, but again, because there is some flex to it, if you press too hard towards the top of the touchpad, you will actuate the buttons as well. But let's look at the gaming performance. Now, starting with the Division 2 against a bunch of older laptops, it performs very well. It is in line with the RTX 2070 and 2070 Super laptops from last year, and in Far Cry 5 it is in a very similar position, and the same goes for the Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is, not bad at all, considering that this RTX 3060 is using around 75 watts in gaming and it's positioned lower. And when we put it against some of the 2021 laptops I tested so far, the GF65 with a 75-watt 3060 is actually doing surprisingly well. If you compare it to the ASUS TUF-F15, which uses an 80-watt RTX 3070, this GF65 is actually faster in most games. It is slower in some, but on average, it still ends up about 8% ahead. Even when you put it against the much more expensive ROG Strix G15 with a higher power 115-watt RTX 3070, it still ends up only 7% behind. So basically, you can expect to play any big title on this laptop at around 60 FPS or even more, and usually at high or even ultra settings. Now, when it comes to the CPU performance, it uses the same 6-core Intel Core i7-10750H that we've seen so many times so far, so I'm not going to talk about it that much. It's still a great CPU both for gaming and for all-around use, and even though it's not as good as the recent 8-core AMD alternatives, it's still more than capable enough to handle basically anything you throw at it. Now, that being said, you really don't want to do much of photo or video editing on this laptop because the panel is mediocre at best. Now, color gamut is typically poor for a budget laptop. It has around 56.3% sRGB coverage, which means that it will look a bit washed out. The color accuracy is poor as well, since the panel just cannot display some of the brighter colors. Maximum brightness is also quite low, standing at 268 nits, so it is definitely an indoor laptop. You don't want to use it in bright environments. And the contrast is okay at 12:33:1, but other than that, this is just a pretty basic panel. That's it. Now, another downside of these panels is that they are not that fast either. Now, I don't have the tools to accurately measure the exact response time, but based on the spec sheet, it should be around 25 milliseconds. Now, when it comes to the internals, MSI did a pretty good job here. The fans are easy to clean, both memory sticks can be replaced, and you can add a second PCIe SSD if you want to. Now, Wi-Fi can be upgraded too, but it has Wi-Fi 6 by default, so there is no reason to do so for the next couple of years. Now, my only gripe here is that the battery probably could have been a bit larger, but it's still okay. With a mid-sized battery in a pretty powerful laptop like this one, I did not expect a great battery life, but it's also not that bad. You get a bit over 5 hours while watching Netflix, or about 5.5 when just using it for light tasks around the house. Now, that's not super amazing, but it's also not bad either. What is surprising though is that even though the underside is very ventilated, the laptop does get very hot. MSI lets the CPU run up to 95 degrees in order to push performance, which I do personally find very uncomfortable. And it is far from being the quietest laptop, coming in at 49.9 decibels. Oddly enough, both the balanced and the extreme performance mode show the exact same result, making me wonder if this is just a software thing that MSI just needs to, check out in the future. I would expect to see these results from a high performance mode, but for a balanced mode, I would really like to see the CPU going below 90 degrees Celsius, not like this one. There's a silent mode as well that does make the laptop go a lot quieter, but it still pushes the CPU to the limit with temperatures in the 90s as well. Now, thankfully, you can just set your own fan curve instead, but I would personally like to see a more balanced presets overall. Unlike ASUS, MSI does think that webcams are important, so they put in a pretty alright model. It is nothing too fancy, but it will be plenty for your typical school or work meeting. So this is the test of the camera quality and of the microphone quality of the GP66, and as you can see, it is not the best, but it's actually quite okay. The speakers are alright as well. They don't sound super clear and there isn't a lot of bass, but they do go loud enough, and you can easily watch a video or two on this one without cringing. Also, the SSD that they used is actually quite nice and quite fast. And to sum it all up, the MSI GF65 Thin is a pretty basic laptop in most regards. So the build quality, the design, tricky thermals and display are very fitting for a laptop that's trying to bring decent specs to a lower price point. So if you're looking for something flashy and something exciting, this is not it. But on the other hand, it also offers very good FPS for your money, with gaming performance being in line with a nice RTX 2070 laptop from last year and even some RTX 3070 laptops from this year. But this laptop will have to be about the price. If this turns out to be more expensive than some of the competition in the budget segment, or more expensive than last year's models with an RTX 2070, for example, I would say it will be very, very difficult to recommend it to anyone. But if MSI manages to actually make this one of the cheapest options on the market, this laptop will be a very viable option to get. Now that's it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please give me a like, subscribe to Tech Testers, and leave a comment down below. See you in the next one. Bye guys!